Uh-huh.
What's up, everyone? It's time to get jiggy with it, and welcome to That Game Rules, a subpar retro podcast where we break down an old retro game and all the pop culture that surrounds it. I am your host, Scuba Steve. Thank you for checking out the show. Today we're talking about Banjo Kazooie for the N64. You know, Mario 64, he gets all the love or the hate. But either way, he gets all that N64 attention. But there are definitely some platform gems on the 64, and that company Rare was involved in a lot of those. Looking at you, Conker. So grab that terribly awesome N64 controller, shove a rumble pack in the back like you're John Wick loading a gun, and join me as we talk Banjo, his buddy Kazooie, Gruntilda, all the rest. But first, it's nostalgia time, because every show we go back in time and we talk old movies, shows, and toys. We go over the game vitals, we go over the box art, the story, the characters, items, levels, music, check out some comments and reviews, and a whole bunch of other nonsense. Finally, we'll give this game some awards, slap a ranking on it, and call it a show. Hey, speaking of terribly awesome things like that N64 controller, how about this podcast? Let me know what you think. I'll read your comments, or we can just chat games. Hit me up at thatgamerules@gmail.com, or check us out over at the terrible website, thatgamerules.com. It's adorable. Let me know what you think. And every month I'll just send out some games. You guys can review them. We can do awards together. It'll be a good time. Let's talk about what I've been up to. We'll get into this game here soon. It's the holiday season. We got Thanksgiving coming up. The house is decorated like crazy with Christmas, and my wife's into gnomes. For some reason. So there's just Christmas gnomes all over the house, but we're big on the holidays. I still like them. Christmas, I don't know what, all my kids are getting older, so Christmas is kind of lame now. All that kind of magic is gone. But it's still, I like being around the family, and I like not working and getting some time off. So I'm looking forward to the holidays. The house construction is about done with all my garage building nonsense crap there, so I am happy to get that off the plate as well. And we're still big in the robot competitions with the kids, so we're doing traveling, but I'm taking the Switch with me. I'm playing games in my downtime there. Anytime I can. The Switch, it's really good for that. It's real good for your traveling. I mean, they really locked down, I guess, ever since, Game Boy. Nintendo's had that handheld market now for a while. And also, I've just been playing Banjo the proper way with the N64 controller. We're going to talk for sure, the Banjo, 64 versus Xbox situations there with the remake of the game and some of the differences there. But the N64, it's the OG, it's the way to go, whether or not you want to fight for those music notes every level or not. But again, we'll get into that in a little bit. Gaming memories for Banjo. I really like Banjo's games. I was a teenager, mainly through the N64 kind of era, which I know I talk a lot about. Feeling bad, I guess, essentially, if you didn't get to grow up a kid in the 80s and you liked games and those kind of things. But I've been recently thinking that I feel kind of bad that I didn't grow up as a kid with the N64 games. Because just based on a lot of comments I was reading, a lot of people, I couldn't imagine playing. If you were like 6 years old, some of you people out there, you had games like Mario 64 and Banjo Kazooie, and you're just a little young 6, 8, or 10-year-old or something, and those are kind of the first games you remember growing up with. Well, then, like, good for you. As far as growing up with some of these N64 games, I never think of it in little kids. I always just think of it as, I was a teenager, so it was like, even a game like Banjo Kazooie, which I played back then, it wasn't like, it's almost like, oh, that's too cute, we got to go play GoldenEye or something, as far as that, those kind of situations back then, a teenager with the 64. But good for you guys growing up with this game when you were a kid. I love all the Rare games, and that's the name of the company. So I know it's hard to look up, what's the, things on Rare having to specify it's the company when the internet thinks you're thinking of a hard to find game or whatever it is. But the company's Rare. It's Rareware. You remember them. They got all those sweet games on the 64. You got Banjo, Diddy Kong Racing, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Donkey Kong 64, and yes, of course, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, just banger after banger. All the Rare games from the Super Nintendo, all your Donkey Kong countries back then. If you know that logo, pop it on the screen, you know it's going to be a good time. Between like Rare, Capcom, Konami, all those old developers, when you see those kind of logos, you should know that you're going to have a good game on your hands. I got love for all those old developers making games and memories for years. We're still waiting for Banjo 3. I mean, someday, nuts and bolts, you don't count. But we're going to keep talking Banjo. We're going to talk some stuff from back in 1998. So let's start this time warp.
Have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
That is right, y'all. Welcome back to 1998. Another special sponsor today. I thought, she's kind of like a witchcraft type of stuff. So I thought she might have been like a personal friend of Gruntilda, like with her magical powers. But based on her accent, maybe she was like a relative of Mumbo.
Who asked you to go out of town? The stupid young one or the married one?
The married one.
That's what I thought. Don't go. You hear me? And you know what? You're not listening to me because I see you going. I see you going. I'm just telling you, I'm trying to help you to avoid the heartache. Don't go blindly through life. Let me use the power of the tarot to show you the way. Call me now for your free reading.
Call 1-800-355-3765.
That's right. Brought to you today by Miss Cleo. I left that phone number in the advertisement. Call it if you want to. I have no idea what it goes to, but it's on the internet, so it's not like I'm doing anything I shouldn't be doing. That was Miss Cleo. If you remember all those infomercials, the Call Me Now. If you want to know some real info, because back then as kids, I swear, like those kind of commercials, and I'm suddenly feeling like tarot cards and all this stuff is real, and I'm wondering who's calling these numbers on these psychic hotlines. But those were big back in the day. Those weren't your Nintendo tip hotlines. They had psychic hotlines. You could call and have somebody read you some tarot card nonsense, and pay them a whole bunch of money per minute, just to feel a little better about your life, I guess. So maybe it's no different than BetterHelp or something today. But she was an American actress. She was not Jamaican. She, like I said, an actress. It was all an act. Her real name is Yori Del Harris, and she sadly passed away in 2016, I believe, from some sort of cancer. So F cancer, the usual situation there. But that was the pay per minute Psychic Readers Network, along with a bunch of other stuff, and her big catchphrase, "Call me now." So special shout out. A lot of those infomercials you fell asleep to or you woke up to, just going on your TV back then, because that's all we had late night. That and maybe like a set it and forget it rotisserie cooker. So let's move into some movies. Again, 1998. Biggest movie of the year, and probably a year or two after that, was Titanic. Number one for 13 weeks, taking in over $1 billion. They really started that, the billion-dollar movie there, as far as Titanic. Your two VHS tapes there, if you wanted to watch it at home, because it was so long. I believe... I used to know which VHS tape had a certain scene. A lot of 13-year-old boys were interested in back then. I don't remember now, but moving along, Saving Private Ryan, another great. There was a time in the late 90s there. Some of those years, even I think 1994 might still be considered like an insane year, because they had like Forrest Gump. There's just like a whole bunch of and I feel like you don't get that nowadays. You don't get. I mean, nowadays it's different. Movies are released on streaming, blah, blah, blah. They're not the big social, cultural event that they used to be. Some of the kids' movies, we got Mulan, Disney's 36th animated film, along with The Prince of Egypt. Also, 1998, first trailer for The Phantom Menace premiered in front of movies. It was 2 minutes, 11 seconds long, only aired in front of 3 movies, Waterboy, Meet Joe Black, and The Siege. And sales were through the roof for all those movies just for people to get up after the trailer and walk out. So all those movie figure sales, besides Waterboy, that's a good movie. I don't know the other two. I haven't seen them. Maybe I did. But anyway, so they had like great ticket sales, and everyone just got up after the Phantom Menace trailer and just walked out of the theater. Also, 1998. Oreo O's released. It's a cereal, and I'm throwing that out there for when I release my sister podcast where I just sample cereals, and I'll do like a little ASMR where I'll just eat cereal into the microphone. So I've got that in development as well. If they would just bring back Rice Krispie Treat cereal in the purple box, I beg you. A couple of the hot songs in 98, you know it, In Sync, I Want You Back, Britney Spears, Baby One More Time, Next, Too Close, Will Smith, Getting Jiggy With It, get it? Banjo player, we're talking jiggies all day today. Some of the TV shows in 1998, the Seinfeld finale, the series finale, they aired their last episode, and I'm not a huge fan of Seinfeld. I think I just don't like Jerry Seinfeld himself. I know it's an alright show, I know the humor's good, it's just it didn't catch me. Maybe now as an adult I should go back and go through it, but maybe I'd rather watch Dawson's Creek or something else from 1998. Also, TGIF, rockin' Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and Boy Meets World, making every guy my age, every kid back then, fall in love with Topanga to this day. Cartoon-wise, Wild Thornberrys, Cat Dog, Dexter's Laboratory, and Courage the Cowardly Dog. Those are some late 90s cartoons. It's almost like their own genre. When you're talking shows like Dexter's or Courage the Cowardly Dog, you know, we got off of some of like the weird grossness of the 90s. When you're thinking like Ren and Stimpy and some of those, you know, the gross humor is kind of fading out. And I like how they're incorporating dark humor. They're incorporating humor, like jokes that aren't obvious, kind of like background stuff. All that thing's happening in cartoons. I love Courage the Cowardly Dog, just the whole concept of that cartoon. Toys in 1998, we just had action figures for days, all of them with ridiculous muscles. When you're talking like the Kenner Star Wars figures, because we had Star Wars, Marvel, Aliens. I mean, we had figures for everything. You got the Machine Wars Transformers. If anybody remembers Mummies Alive, you had Mummies Alive figures, WWF figures all over the place. And for the ladies, you know, we're not going to count you out as well. You had some Spice Girls dolls. Those were hot. And another thing, another particular product, I think little girls were kind of maybe getting sick of their brothers shooting them with Nerf guns and Nerf darts and all these other projectile boy things that they came up with their own anti-boy toy.
Sky dancers! They're flying! Fly for me, just for me, sky dancers dance for me. Wow, they really fly! Come to me, dance for me, sky dancers fly for me. They're beautiful. New sky dancers, real flying dancers with magical wings and pretty dresses. Pull their magic star and they twirl and fly. Sky dancers fly just for me. New flying sky dancers, doll and doll with launcher sets, each sold separately.
Are you ready to put your eyes out, children? Those things where I think they had to stop them after like a first year. These little dolls with these sharp plastic blade like arm wings, and you'd put them in the stand, you'd pull this trigger and they fly all prettily into the air, start taking out children's eyeballs, gash your cheek up a little bit, take off the tail of the cat, knock off all of mom's dishes off the sink, all sorts of fun stuff we were getting into with the sky dancers. So again, yeah, shoot when your brother's shooting Nerf at you, you fire off a sky dancer at his face, and now we got a living room battle going on. We're going to move on. We're going to talk box art. We're going to talk a lot of history and facts. We're going to break down some levels, and we'll do it after we listen to Bart here.
Now, I know you love video games, and I asked the clerk which is the one every boy wants.
You got me! Oh, yeah!
So we're looking at the box art. Of course, the N64 has got that color aesthetic box art, and you got like the blue on the one side, like an orange tint, like a red tint. Like they did that to all their boxes, so they always look great when you got all those lined up on the shelf with kind of your color tint there. But for the box itself, it's got everything you want, lots of colors. You're catching attention. It's got the Rare logo. You got your Rumble Pack little logo there, so you can shove that in there as well. And it's just got all your characters on the front being chased by Grunty, collecting jigsaw pieces. You got Mumbo on there, a bunch of characters. It totally looks like a Rare game. You might even mistake it for like Donkey Kong Country looking at it, but it looks great. And other than that, we'll keep going with some history and some facts. I got tons of music today as well once we talk these levels. But let's talk Rare, the company, when they're not making great freaking games for the Super Nintendo like the Donkey Kong Countries, or even back on the Nintendo when they were making games like Battletoads, which is definitely an NES tough game. Some little history. Rare conceived Banjo Kazooie as an RPG titled Dream for the SNES following the completion of Donkey Kong Country 2. The 15-member team transitioned development to the 64 and retooled the game as a platformer after the RPG format proved too complex. Banjo Kazooie was inspired, of course, by Mario 64 and designed to appeal to a broad audience similar to Disney films. So they're really trying to and it does. It looks very Disney as far as a Rare game goes. They went more cartoony. We'll talk about like every item, every background thing. It's very cartoon-like. We'll get into that. Let's talk about that original concept game called Dream. Inspired by Japanese RPGs and LucasArts adventure games, Dream was developed for 16 months and starred a boy who got into trouble with a group of pirates. The game used Rare's advanced computer modeling graphics technology first used in Donkey Kong Country, and we all know how great those turned out. It involved the layering of several sprites to provide depth, achieved with hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of rendering equipment. As development progressed, the boy was considered by the developers to be, again, generic, boring, like the worst curse of a video game character. You can be hated, you can be loved, but the worst thing you can be is just boring. Thus, he was replaced by a rabbit, then a bear who wore a backpack, of course, who would end up being Banjo. So Rare scrapped the idea of Dream after seeing an early version of Super Mario 64. This game catches a lot of flack for being like a Mario 64 clone, but when Mario 64 introduced the world to 3D platforming and did it well and right, there's nothing else you could really do besides at least pull a lot from that. I wouldn't consider Banjo to be a straight clone, but taking the best parts of Mario 64, trying some new stuff here, but other than that, they added tons of stuff between moves. The game has less levels, but more detailed levels with more to do, and mainly just more story everywhere between the NPCs, the way you collect things. We'll keep talking about all that. So within the first week of changing their idea and over after seeing Mario shifting to a 3D platformer, they built the first recognizable Banjo Kazooie level, and from that point they developed the game into what it is today. The game was designed to appeal to players of all ages, like I said, similar to Disney films. According to Rare, they quote, "We wanted the characters to primarily appeal to a younger audience, but at the same time give them enough humor and attitude not to discourage older players," end quote. One major goal was for everything to have personality down to the collectibles, which includes items with eyes. They got like googly eyes and eggs that bounce up and down just as they're sitting. It's just an animation. So everything feels alive. Everything is animated. It's like a cartoon world. It reminds me of like the cartoon world from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, or even like the trees. Everything's just kind of bouncy. That's just kind of how this game is. Banjo Kazooie is mostly regarded as a collectathon, although it is so much more than that. Collectathon being a style of game in which a variety of collectible items forms a basis for gameplay mechanics. These are designed to motivate the player to fully explore the 3D world, which we were still fairly new with, and to reward the player for doing so. So it almost like it speaks to anyone with like me who has some amounts of OCD, but just by having things in order, by checking things off a checklist, you kind of get like a dopamine fix. I mean, that's kind of how this game works. If you like collecting things, you like little challenges, you just small little rewards to keep you going. These range from minor rewards such as learning a new move, finding enough jiggies to open a new world, finding notes to open note doors, finding honeycomb pieces to increase your health, all the way up to larger scale rewards for more complex achievements such as the final note door, doubling Banjo's health. You get the Cheeto book, where you can double all your inventory, your red feathers, your eggs, tons of stuff. So you got small rewards all the way up to big rewards. Every collectible, with the exception of the stop and swap, fulfills a mechanic to either progress the game or aid the player with new moves and abilities. And stop and swap, a bit ambitious for Rare. We will talk about Stop and Swap down the road as well. Released in North America in June 1998, Banjo Kazooie sold over 3 million copies, making it one of the best-selling 64 games. It received acclaim from critics, of course, who said it surpassed Mario 64 as the best 3D platform and adventure game. Still a lot of argument about that to this day. The game was praised for its visuals, soundtrack, characters' writing, humor, and level design, while criticism was directed towards lack of originality and the camera system. I'll let you crap on the camera system all you want to. This one is better than Mario 64. They tried to improve it. You can do like a follow straight behind you camera, for some of the tougher platforming, which helps a lot. But the cameras were what they were back then. I'll let you crap on the cameras, but the lack of originality, I know with the Mario clone thing, you want to kind of feel that, but I feel like this game has tons of originality in the charm, in the humor. So I disagree with that. I think they changed a lot. That you're not just going in, collecting stars and hopping out. You're staying in the level. You're trying to get a lot more done. The little side quests you do are helping NPCs who actually talk to you and give you a story. So despite being praised by critics and gamers as an improved version of Mario 64, Banjo was not intended by the team to simply be that. However, Mario 64's 3D aspect was referenced heavily, as it was the only game similar to Banjo that had ever been released, and Rare intended to combine it with the look of Donkey Kong Country. So you're like, we have Mario 64, now you've got Rare, who made Donkey Kong Country, and they'll make DK64 eventually. But yeah, this game is totally, you combine Mario 64 with Donkey Kong Country, then you can just...
Shut up and take my money!
All day long. Let's talk controls and buttons. Nothing super specific. It's a big game, so I'll talk about what I can, what I want to, and however long this takes me, but I do enjoy talking about a Banjo playing bear. So Rare decided to make the game focus totally on Banjo and his abilities, with Kazooie later almost coming about by accident. And that's, at least Kazooie's there. I love Kazooie. She's awesome. We'll keep going. They wanted Banjo to run really fast and have a double jump, but thought he looked strange doing it. So according to the developer, they quote, "We came up with the idea that a pair of wings could appear from his backpack to help him perform a second jump. We also wanted Banjo to be able to run very fast when required, so we added a pair of fast-running legs that appeared from the bottom of his backpack. Soon after, we came up with the logical conclusion that these could belong to another character, one that actually lived in Banjo's backpack. So Kazooie was born. Kazooie was nicknamed after a kazoo, which was considered an annoying instrument, much like the personality of the bird." And that's part of this game, too. Just Kazooie chirping everybody, between the banter between Banjo and Kazooie, but mainly the banter between Kazooie and Bottles, the mole. It just adds to it. There wasn't a lot of that at all in Mario 64. It gave you kind of a hint to find a star, and you'd find it. And it's still hard to say if I could only choose one game and the other one got destroyed forever out of my life. It's a hard toss-up, because Mario 64 has that nostalgia for me. But I won't even get into that question. I'll just have to die without ever knowing if I chose Mario or Banjo. We'll talk a little music before we get into some gameplay, some story, because this game has some good story to it, some funny stuff. The music, I want to shout out the composer, which I try to do. I'm usually bad at it. They kind of sit in the background when it comes to music. But there was a lot going on, a lot of new stuff, a lot of new technology happening with the music and sounds in this game. The music from the game was composed by Grant Kirkhope. CD soundtrack was also available exclusively to Nintendo Power subscribers and sold at Best Buy. 2 additional tracks were included on the CD that Nintendo Power subscribers received. So that's cool. You send out, or maybe it's shipped with it. You get a sweet Banjo Kazooie soundtrack. It's also released, like just now, the original Banjo Kazooie soundtrack on these awesome looking vinyls, which a lot of people collect, like these cool custom vinyls where they like make art onto the vinyl itself, I think, type of thing. So if you're into that, go check. They're releasing N64 soundtracks on vinyl. Like, that's the world I want to live in. So let's keep doing that. During an interview, Kurt Cope had stated that Banjo Kazooie was his favorite work he ever composed. He even got teary-eyed when he saw the follow-up Banjo Tooie again after not seeing it for 10 years. Brings a tear to your eye. Banjo Kazooie is significant for its introduction of vertical remixing to video games. Various sound layers of the same composition fade in and out depending on which area the player has moved to, such as going from above ground to underwater. So that's the thing. It's the layering they did in this game that was brand new, and you notice it in the game. As you're going through areas, the sound of like the swamp fades out as you're getting closer to like the desert, however it works, where it used to just have to be just a straight cut, or they didn't have layering based on where your character was in a 3D environment. So they're able to judge where the character is. The music will change according to that. Very all common stuff nowadays, but it was brand new back then and made it just feel more immersive. So it was one of the first games to feature vertical remixing, like I said, where they fade in and out depending on the actual player's location. And a little side note here, the xylophone that Mumbo plays during the game's intro concert also appears in Candy Kong's Music Shop and Donkey Kong 64. And Rare's always sending references to each other's games and stuff throughout. That's why Banjo and Conkers were kind of born from Diddy Kong Racing. You can go play them in Diddy Kong Racing if you want to. So we're going to talk stories and characters. We're going to listen to some more music, and I got tons of it. And we're going to read this plot just like a children's book. So, let's keep talking about the bear Banjo and the bird Kazooie. The player, you get to explore 9 non-linear worlds to gather items and progress. Using Banjo and Kazooie's traversal and combat abilities, they complete challenges such as solving puzzles, jumping over obstacles, and defeating bosses. But how did we get here, kids? Gather around, everybody sit down, grab your chocolate milk. Let's talk about Banjo and Gruntilda. The evil witch of Spiral Mountain, Gruntilda, is inside her lair, asking her cauldron Dingpot questions about who is the nicest and fairest of them all, to which Dingpot reluctantly answers, "You are, mistress." She gloats over her beauty until Dingpot finally breaks the silence and tells the witch that Tootie, another inhabitant of Spiral Mountain, is actually the prettiest and fairest of them all. Grunty reacts angrily and decides to kidnap Tootie in order to steal her beauty. She grabs her broom and sets off immediately. Meanwhile, Tootie is running around Spiral Mountain when she is greeted by Bottles in front of Banjo's house. She eagerly tells Bottles the mole that she is going on an adventure with her brother Banjo. Inside the house, Banjo is sleeping soundly, with his Breagle friend Kazooie napping in his backpack. Tootie and Bottles are still talking until Bottles spots Grunty in the distance, but confuses her for Banjo due to his big-ass glasses and he can't see anything. Grunty immediately goes for Tootie and a struggle ensues. Kazooie, eager for action and adventure, overhears the clamor outside, as well as Bottles' cries for help and tries to wake Banjo up. But just like Link, Banjo is just in bed at the beginning of his adventure. That's just how it starts. Banjo and Kazooie leave their house only to discover that Grunty has gone off and kidnapped Tootie. Bottle tells the bear and bird that they must venture through Gruntilda's lair to rescue Tootie. Bottles offers to prepare the duo to fight Gruntilda by teaching them some basic moves and repairing the bridge leading to the lair's entrance. Banjo and Kazooie set off on an adventure into the lair to save Tootie. So one of the cool things about this game, I give Nintendo flack a lot for not having dialogue in their games. They never have, it's always chat boxes. We never have characters talking to each other. And it's still chat boxes in this game. but they actually got some voices. They got some real voice work, depending on how long you can stand to listen to some of these characters. It's like whatever. It's like the teacher from Peanuts and stuff. It's just a womp 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 as the text is crawling across. But the charm is there, and I love it. So that just plays. So that was Banjo Kazooie, and then Grunty and Bottles, I think. So those noises all just play as the text is going across. Gruntilda's especially, and she always, all her dumb rhymes she speaks with. But that noise, the just going across the whole time, I enjoy it all. So it does not bother me at all. You got NPCs talking to you, giving you real quests, making you feel like you're really doing something. Once inside the layer, Banjo and Kazooie find a Jiggy, which is used to open, that's a jigsaw piece, but we call them Jiggies, which is used to open and unlock levels around the layer by completing jigsaw puzzle pictures. Think of like the Mario 64 paintings, except you kind of have to unlock them with puzzle pieces. You get to kind of tease what the next level is going to look like as you complete these puzzles before you can actually activate the level to get into it. They soon find a painting that fits their first Jiggy, opening the first level of the layer, Mumbo's Mountain. Banjo and Kazooie enter the first world, where they find that their quest is not as easy as they had anticipated. They discover that they need to rescue Jinjos imprisoned by Grunty throughout each of the worlds, as well as collect musical notes, which are needed to open up note doors to progress through the deeper areas of Gruntilda's lair. They also meet Mumbo Jumbo, a skull-faced shaman who offers his services to the bear and bird by transforming the adventurers into different animals with different abilities. So we're really getting that rare action here. Remember all your animal buddies from like Donkey Kong Country? We're pulling that over into Banjo, except you're doing actual transformations here. Some of the items, so the items in the game themselves, we talked the Jiggies, the jigsaw pieces, 10 of those in each level to unlock worlds as you go. The music notes, that's the music notes, 100 in each level. Think of like your coins in Mario. The problem is here, we'll get it out of the way, between the 64 and the Xbox remake, which was made, 15 years later or something, released on Xbox. They just updated it, made it widescreen, HD graphics, kept most of the game the same, with the exception of the music notes. So you need all these music notes to beat the game. It's not just Mario coins where you're collecting for fun or to see how well you can do. The point is you need all these music notes to fully 100% the game. The issue with the N64 version is, as if you die, the music notes reset. It resets at like a weird kind of high score count type of thing. But the main thing being, if you're on music note 99 and you fall and die, you have to go back in and essentially recollect all of those without dying again. And I see people go both ways on this. They either say that's the way you should play it, 64 version, or that's ridiculous, play the Xbox. So in the Xbox version, you collect your 30 and you die, you go back into the level, those 30 are gone. So you still have to just get your 70. So it's a weird difference there. It still puts me back in that kid mentality, because when you're a kid and you have free weekends, you have no responsibilities in life, you're just a kid, take the 64 version. I'm a dad with crap to do, even though I don't have the Xbox version. I was playing my 64 version. I'd prefer to not deal with the music note mess. I would prefer an Xbox version, even though I'm just stuck with my 64 version. I'll take it, but I think that's a good improvement for the game. I think that should be, if anything, a separate like hardcore mode in order to do that. So we'll get the music note talk out of the way. You also have Mumbo tokens in a level. Those are the ones that can transform you per level. You have a couple of different guys you can turn into. They're not really great. None of them really stick out. The crocodile's kind of cool because you can attack with him. The bee, you can fly, but you can already kind of fly with Kazooie, so I don't know why they got to throw a bee in the mix. The pumpkin's kind of fun. We'll talk about him later. You also have per level 2 honeycombs, and that's what's going to kind of increase your health meters as you go. Per level, you have 5 Jinjos, and those are the creatures. They're little colored trapped little creature guys. Those are a little trickier to find. I'll talk about that. They make them kind of camouflage and stuff. And you've also got the witch switch in levels that will open up stuff in Grunty's lair later on in the game, as well as just tons of other items and things, tons of other stuff to jump on and collect. We're just going to kind of breeze through it, and I think I'll break down my top 9. I'll break down the levels in my order of preference when we get there. So the two continue progressing through the layer, gathering musical notes, jiggies, and other collectibles along the way, as well as rescuing the Jinjos of each world. They also encounter Mumbo Jumbo and Bottles several times, their buddies, who continue to help the heroes by transforming them or teaching them new moves, respectively. Banjo and Kazooie also get help from Gruntilda's nicer sister, Brentilda, who gossips interesting facts about her ugly sister that you better be paying attention to if you want to beat this game later. For the first phase of the boss, more weird, fun, rare stuff coming in as far as how they end this game in weird, rare ways. After successfully surviving through all 9 worlds in her lair, Banjo and Kazooie eventually reach Gruntilda but are forced to play her quiz show. That is what some people thought was like the only fight, or when I was younger I didn't realize there was more to this. That was just kind of the Gruntilda fight, was this weird quiz show thing. So suddenly Banjo's on The Price is Right.
Come on down! You're the next contestant on The Price is Right!
Come on, Grunty, get down there. How much does that washing machine cost? You're going to turn into one later. It doesn't matter. That is Grunty's Furnace Fun. That is the quiz show game, and she's going to ask you all sorts of stuff about the game. She's going to ask you about things she said. She's going to ask you about things Brentilda said. She's going to play sound clips. You have to tell her what that's from. She'll show you like a screenshot. You have to tell her what level that is. So it's really a lot of cool stuff, actually, to just kind of like recap the entire game you just played. So thanks to the information provided by Brentilda's gossips, Banjo and Kazooie win. They save Tootie, and with Tootie rescued, they return home and celebrate with a barbecue. Roll those credits. However, Tootie reminds us, our heroes, that Grunty had escaped shortly after the game show and was still at large plotting her wicked schemes. And this is why you watch your credits, people. It's not just MCU movies where you're watching for that end scene there. You want to watch credits and games, like I say before, you earned it, and they will throw some cool things in. They'll throw some love to you guys for playing through the game, love to developers. Sometimes the credits are just cool. They tell you the names of enemies you didn't know, because they didn't tell you in game. Maybe you'll get some backstory there. In this case, watch the whole credits, because there's a whole scene after the credits. And then you have to go do the real fight. The quiz show is just a fake out. So if you just do the quiz show, I beat the game and turn it off, there's a whole nother fight. I mean, that's your real fight on top of a castle, dramatic, using all the moves you've learned throughout the entire game. You got to use all of them to beat Gruntilda. So watch your credits. Banjo and Kazooie make their way back up the layer until they finally reach the roof with a little help from Dingpot. On the roof, Gruntilda challenges them to a more direct confrontation, and an epic battle ensues. But with the help of Jinjus they rescued in the various worlds of Gruntilda's lair, Banjo and Kazooie defeat Gruntilda before ultimately knocking her off her tower. She crashes into the ground, creating a crater of her shape, cartoon style, like Wile E. Coyote, which is then covered by a large boulder that falls from the tower and traps Gruntilda beneath it. Banjo and Kazooie finally take a well-deserved break at the beach, where the bear and bird and their friends anticipate a sequel, Banjo Tooie. So 2 years before Banjo Tooie, this game came out, knew how awesome it was, enough to tease a sequel, along with the stop and swap stuff. It's weird. They tease stuff that then you can never find out about ever in life. It's like they teased Banjo Tooie with development features that they weren't able to finish because Nintendo fixed some stuff. It's all about the stop and swap things. And if you know anything about Banjo and you're listening, you know what I'm talking about. If not, I'll tell you what stop and swap is in a little bit. Rare got real ambitious with that 64 hardware, ended up biting them in the ass a little bit. So Banjo and Kazooie finally take that well-deserved break where like I said, where they anticipate that sequel. But meanwhile, Gruntilda, whose loyal minion Klungo is trying to rescue her, swears her revenge. So Gruntilda will be back, and I like her. She's like my favorite part of this game. A good villain can make or break a movie. It can make or break a game. And Gruntilda does it for me. Just that name, her dumb rhyming. I like everything she's all about. So we'll talk main characters. Of course, we got Banjo, the good-hearted, well-mannered, and sweet-natured honey bear. He's always seen wearing bright yellow shorts and a blue backpack for carrying Kazooie around. As seen in the opening scene, he's an experienced banjo player. He cares a lot for his best friend and those in need, and sometimes shares a bond or two with his little sister Tootie. Unlike his sister, Banjo's not really into adventuring. And again, he first appeared in Diddy Kong Racing along with Conker. Eventually, Banjo and Kazooie made it into Smash Brothers Ultimate. So around then, we were all really hoping we were going to get some more Banjo games since Microsoft bought Rare and whatever's going on there. I'm so sick of companies buying other developer companies, gutting those companies, trying to get the next big, stupid, pay-to-play game, and they're always trying to get the next Fortnite, and always trying to get the next GTA. And all these cool, charming games are probably just, well, I guess that's what independent developers are out for now. So play them indie games, people. Those are some of the best stuff out there now, is one guy, maybe a group of 5 people, like whatever it is. Some of these indie games made by people like us, grew up with video games, and they're really shining versus your GTA 6 and these big corporate feeling games nowadays. So we got Kazooie the Breagle, a sassy and obnoxious, wise-cracking, red-crested Breagle, and Banjo's best friend. She loves to insult people out of the blue, which causes conflicts and fights. Kazooie loves to explore and go adventuring. She also plays a namesake instrument, in this case, the kazoo. And Kazooie's great. She'll do some humor that as a kid is going to go over your head, and as an adult, I'm like, that's hilarious. So she's a loudmouth, and she has got plenty to say, but together they make an extraordinary team. So the enemy, we got Gruntilda Winky Bunyan, the main antagonist. Gruntilda, or Grunty for short, is an evil and stereotypical witch who sets out to capture Banjo's sister to steal her beauty. She always speaks in rhyme and also happens to own a broom that follows her when needed. So she's a good villain. At least her story, if she's a basic witch, is still... basic witch is still a decent story. I like when you get into Rare's humor. If you haven't played Conker's Bad Fur Day, the bad guy in the story in that game is the bad guy, I think, kidnaps Conker because his table leg broke and he wants his table like even again, so Conker was going to replace this little piece of wood. So it's like a dumb story, and you get a whole game for it. But anyway, we've also got Tootie the Bear. That's Banjo's cheerful and younger sister. Tootie is somewhat a bit of an outgoing lass and loves adventuring, but she's also a bit cowardly. But she did vow that Banjo would come and save her from Grunty after being kidnapped. Along with tons of other characters, we've got Bottles the Mole, Mumbo Jumbo the Shaman. He's funny. And then Brentilda the sister, all making up a great cast of characters here. The gameplay itself, the player travels from one world to another through Gruntilda's lair, a region that acts as the game's central overworld, almost like a hub world, but kind of more linear as far as like a hub world goes. Jiggies allow the player to complete jigsaw puzzles, which open doors to new worlds, and the musical notes are required to open new sections of the overworld. So it is collectathon, collect stuff, open next stuff, rinse and repeat. But it's the charm and the humor that keeps you going. Like Mario 64, it's very open, the game, and allows players to collect jiggies and musical notes in a non-linear order. So it's less non-linear, I feel like, than Mario 64. You can still kind of go to different places you want, but the levels do advance you between learning like what moves you need from bottles. As far as, certain levels, you have to have those moves and those kind of things as well. Each world is composed of a number of challenges. This is where it's not just like collecting or finding. You've got puzzles, you've got obstacles. There's the racing parts, which I've always hated since racing the turtle to the top of the mountain in 64. There's racing mini games. There's bonus games. You're gathering stuff, or you're just straight fighting enemies. Mixes it all up. The tasks, some of the tasks include spelling words, helping lights get on a Christmas tree while helping them not get eaten, looking for pirates' gold, just giving real tasks to a lot of this stuff. And it's where it shines because it makes these worlds start to feel alive by providing that little bit of story. So you got a lot of the action adventure elements there with the platforming, that it'll stop. You'll just be having to do platforming for a while. Then you're back to collecting this or that. But as far as abilities, you get a bunch of them. We'll talk a couple of the moves and abilities. You've got your jump, you got climbing, ground pound, a lot of the basic stuff, swimming, flying. But some of the moves that Banjo has himself, he's got the forward roll attack. He's got this punch that I never really use because he kind of steps forward like 4 steps as he's punching, and you can't turn while you're doing it. So if you are attacking people, you're probably doing the rat-a-tat that Kazooie does out of the backpack. So Kazooie's got like a damage move there. Your kind of floaty, kind of princessy jump you get. Your feathery flap. So it's almost like a double jump with a little float at the end. You've got your flap flip. That's your big super kind of jump. You're going to use, and it's like combines all these with Kazooie. Of course, your talon trot. That's where you flip over. Kazooie sticks his legs out. She's helping carry Banjo around now. You run super fast. You can run up hills, through certain waters and things. And then, of course, Kazooie's got the egg fire in. You're either firing some eggs right out of his mouth, or you turn around and you're shooting eggs out of his butt, or her butt. Either way. You turn around, there's eggs coming from behind. You got the beak barge. She'll charge. You're using that for breaking doors. It's got like the ground pound with the beak buster, and then there's platforms around where you can do like spring jumps and flying. Just tons more moves than 64, definitely. Just by having these 2 characters and using Kazooie's wings versus Banjo and all this stuff. Like they have the shield move where Kazooie's wings come in front of Banjo, and you can run into things with invincibility. And it just goes on and on from there. It keeps kind of tweaking some of those together. But you'll be flying, you'll be running, you'll be doing all this stuff. She can also fly. Kazooie can fly and jump like higher than Banjo, but again, only on those pads, the red feather pads to fly. Yada, yada, yada. Lots of walkthrough stuff. I don't want to get too specific, but I just want to kind of throw all those out so you guys can remember some of those cool moves. We kind of went through all the objects. There's feathers you'll collect. The eggs you have to collect in order to have essentially like an inventory of eggs to then shoot at things. And some different shoes. You get the running shoes. Eventually you get some wading boots. That lets you go into some like poison water type areas and those kind of things without losing health. And a couple of other various things. You'll find Mumbo here and there. You'll find goggles here and there. But like I said, they're also aided by Gruntilda's sister, Brentilda. She'll just be kind of hiding in some weird spots. There's also tons of cheats in this game. You get Cheeto the book. We'll go over some of those. We got your classic kind of rare cheats as far as big heads or giant Kazooie, all the way up to your normal stuff, your invincibilities and those kind of things as well as just turning yourself into a washing machine and just running around for no reason because they put that code in. So, yep, one of the codes you just change into a washing machine, and I am all about it. So by finding that spell book, it's got a weird way for you to enter cheats. You got to do it like manually with like a ground pound. But they're there, just like we want them. For the collectibles themselves, developers wanted Banjo Kazooie to differ from other games involving collecting in that, quote, rather than just being a shiny object, the Jiggy was a shiny object that could actually be used for something, end quote. So the Jinjos were greenlit out of an idea Rare had since developing Donkey Kong Country, that it would be a hard-to-collect collectible that ran away or camouflaged when the player was about to obtain it. Other collectibles, such as the eggs, feathers, notes, and honeycombs, were all just incorporated to contribute to the theme of the game itself. And difficulty balance was a major focus. The musical notes were ultimately the only collectibles the player would lose if they died or exited a level. So the fact that they tweaked that as a difficult, maybe they felt the game was too easy. I guess. It's not hard. I guess it does lose a lot of the difficulty as far as having to stay alive to get all those music notes instead of just kind of replaying a level. But if the level's good, then you don't mind replaying it. So we're definitely deciding, points and scores at this point are lame. we're getting into collectathon. There's no high scores in this game. There's no points, like all these NES games that have scores and all these running things at the bottom that it seems like nobody really cares about. Like I've said before, we weren't on the playground saying what our score was on Mario 3. We were saying, what world we made it to or what secret we figured out. So I think we're finally learning now at this point as developers that nobody really cares about points. It's almost like I think developers have realized now that nobody cares about like lives and game overs and continues and those kind of things. Just make a good game and we'll play all the levels and we'll play the game again if it's good. So they kind of finally moved on to all of that. We talked a little bit about the cheats and stuff. See, originally itself on the game and some of the rumors, they wanted to include a multiplayer and more worlds. They also they were conflicted between creating sections where Banjo and Kazooie would be separate from one another, but they ultimately decided it would be too much. And all those things kind of come into play in Banjo Tooie. So there's another mechanic transferred to Banjo Tooie as far as levels where you're split up. And of course, more worlds and all those kind of things that come along with the sequel. So we'll talk stop and swap real quick before we get into my levels ranking. One of the scrap features, stop and swap, would have allowed Banjo Kazooie to interact with other rare games like Banjo Tooie, Donkey Kong 64, even Perfect Dark, Conker's Bad Fur Day. They had found something about the 64 as far as storage that they were trying to incorporate across all of their rare games. During development, they discovered the 64 retained flash memory for several seconds after a cartridge removal. I think it was about 10 seconds. If you remember, think about taking like a CD out of like a Discman back then and it still played for a couple of seconds. It's taken in that extra memory. In this case, so if you pulled a cart out of the 64, I guess you would have about 10 seconds of everything staying, however memory works in a system like that. So they tried to implement a feature whereby removing the cartridge and quickly inserting a different cart, let's say Banjo Tooie, while the game's memory was still in the console, it would unlock bonus content. So it would know that you did a couple of things in Banjo Kazooie. You could swap the cartridges real quick, and then it would know to activate these things in Banjo Tooie. Let's say it would unlock a level because it read that you had done that in Banjo Kazooie. And you can see where this has gone into, of course, just games nowadays in general. But for them to try to do that back then with the cartridge, of course, in Nintendo's case, the cartridge doing all the saving and all the storage, not so much like how games are nowadays. But Nintendo, number one, didn't want them doing that, even with the 10-second window of just kids attempting to take a cart out while systems are on, trying to smash in another cart before your time ran out. I mean, you could see even with 10 seconds, there could be some issues. You could be breaking games. You could be damaging your system itself. So Nintendo was concerned that the 64 would not retain the memory long enough for the feature to work and that it could potentially damage consoles. And then specifically, not just to react to Banjo or what Rare was trying to do, but Nintendo 64 models produced after Banjo Kazooie release were, of course, upgraded as you do with tech. It's the same system, but they're fixing technology inside. And they actually fixed that memory lag to about like 1 second. So they had been developing all this stuff, assuming they could transfer games. And even then, be like, hey, well, we got 10 seconds. Let them try this. And then Nintendo fixed it, and it went down to 1 second. I mean, making it virtually impossible to get a cart out and a cart back in. And now you can see where problems would come in with kids smashing carts in there and breaking your little circuit boards in there and those kind of things. So they did have to scrap, stop, and swap. It's why you still kind of see some of those things in game. It always gets brought up, like Mumbo's teasing stuff at the end that you never really get to ever find in the game. And even back then, people thought maybe it was some kind of secret, but it was just undeveloped things that kind of never went the way they're supposed to. So that's it. I'm just gonna rank the levels next because they're all great. Some of them are great, and I've got music for every single one because the music is definitely great. So let's play some more now, and then we'll get into some rankings. right, I could talk a lot about these levels all day. They're all pretty cool. And you got your basic. We're kind of missing like a lava level here, but we got our basic. We got a lot of woods. We got water, of course. A sweet haunted mansion level. Excuse me. But we will start right at the top here. Everyone should know this. We're going to go from the bottom up. Number 9, my least liked level. That's right, Rusty Bucket Bay. You deserve all the crap you get. And I'm ranking these and voting on these based on my N64 world. And to get the notes in this level, you've got your dumb engine mechanics like in movies where you've got just blades and things smushing and pounding, and it's like your kind of industrial type of level here. The cackling old crone has even got her own ship, though you'd be right to suspect that it's not the most cheerful vessel in the world. Everything on board seems to have a grudge against you, from the goblin crew right down to the very scenery, including the funnels up on the deck and the crates in the cargo hold. So be on your guard when exploring this ship and its surrounding harbor. You got the swimming, you've got the platforming in the engine room. It's just a huge spike in difficulty, even though it's towards the end of the levels in the game. There's no mumbo, no goggles. It is just a tough level, and you deserve all the crap you get. So screw you, Rusty Bucket Bay. We'll move on. Number 8. That is another swimming level here. That's Clanker's Cavern. You got, it's a dirty, dingy sewer. It looks like we're playing Shadows of the Empire again in that sewer level. It's got the green sewage water. It does have a big, cool robot shark named Clanker. You get to swim. It's cool, kind of swimming through his gills and stuff like that. Again, dealing with the air supply is tough. Another level without mumbo, so no fun swimming creatures to transform into or anything. Clanker's Cavern, rusty old pipes and polluted pools of water certainly won't leave you with a false sense of security when you're in Clanker's Cavern, which is just as well because there are plenty of underwater challenges and vertigo-inducing moments to keep you on your toes. The star of the level is Clanker himself, Gruntilda's mechanical trash compactor, who's not particularly happy with the way life is going. So you're sitting in there at number 8, Clanker's Cavern. Number 7... Oh, now we're past the 2 levels I just kind of don't like playing. And again, I like challenges. I like games to beat me up a little bit, but I don't enjoy those levels like I do the rest of the games. Those were kind of the 2 kind of duds. From here, I like all this stuff, and we're just going to get into like the top tier 3 at the end. But that was Mumbo's Mountain. That's your first level. There is a tutorial level you can just skip in this game. This is the first level, which then kind of puts all your tutorial skills to the test here. The first jigsaw door that you'll be able to open from the witch's den leads to this world, the shaman's home turf, which he's tried hard to protect from Gruntilda's spiteful magic. You'll find Mumbo in the village on top of the mountain, but don't leave without exploring the other mini-worlds in the valley below, particularly Congo the Gorilla's Patch and the towering termite mound. So again, it's not just a basic level of stuff, it's like sections to all these levels that make you feel like you're not even in the same level anymore. So it's like levels with levels. You get like Banjo Inception going on in some of this stuff. But Mumbo's is cool. It's your opening stage. It's got a good flow. It's rewarding all your exploration, letting you know that you're going to want to go to every corner of every single one of these worlds. And it's fun and it's quick. So let's talk number 6 on the list. That's right, Bubble Gloop Swamp. Another kind of darky or dingier level. This is where things start getting really unpleasant. Bubble Gloop Swamp is dank, smelly, and dangerous. Definitely Gruntilda's kind of place. There are friendly faces amidst the gloom, however. You'll bump into Mumbo and the famous Tip Tup Choir, among others, which will hopefully make up for your dealings with the piranha, poisonous swamp frogs, and greedy Mr. Vile the crocodile. So it's an alright level. I like the kind of brighter, if it's not like a cool Halloween theme, I like the kind of brighter levels. I'm not big on swamp levels, I guess, but this one's fine. You get the wading boots in this, where then I think Kazooie can go into the kind of poisonous water. Lots of platforming here. This is where you can transform into the croc thanks to Mumbo, and you can just cruise through the swamp when you're the crocodile. Except there is a tough, like for me, I specifically remember like there's a eating mini game where you're a gator, and I think you're racing against another gator to eat stuff, and that one always fed me my lunch a little bit back in the day. Let's check out number 5. Great music. If you can't tell, that one there is Gobi's Valley. It's out of the refrigerator into the fire as you plunge into this desert world where even Gobi himself is finding the heat too much to take, and this coming from a camel. Take shelter in the Ancient One's pyramids and meet Ruby, the mysterious snake charmer, but beware the superheated sand and mummified hands lurking under the surface when you venture back out into the sun. So more Kazooie running around in this one, definitely. I like a desert level ever since Mario 64. You got to have, this one's got, you got sphinxes, pyramids, mazes, quicksand. You got Gobi the camel. You got all this desert stuff. Makes a great desert level. And yeah, you're talon trotting all across the quicksand and all sorts of stuff. It's real cool. You get to like open up the pyramid, go into the pyramid, mini games all over. So I'm digging the desert one. Just like I said with Mario 64, and even like Zelda's always got desert levels. So I've always it's not like you experience quicksand in real life like cartoons and video games made you think of when you were a kid. Thought you'd be dealing with a lot more quicksand in your adult life, but I guess that's what video games are for. We're getting into some top tier levels now. Number 4. Mad Monster Mansion. Night has fallen permanently around the creepiest mansion house in existence, giving it a reputation which is entirely well-deserved. The whole place is crawling with ghosts, skeletons, bats, and worse. Searching the old chapel, basement, grounds, the graveyard, and the mansion itself is a hair-raising business, but there's no backing out now if your heart's set on rescuing Tootie. And you know I love Halloween levels. I love me some ghost houses. I love this level. It's like a bunch, it's not even like a playing through level. It's just this level with kind of like a bunch of sections, like it says, like the basement or all these certain rooms you open up in the mansion itself. It's just got a lot of details in this world. There's lots of searching. You've got talking toilets. You got pumpkin transformations and fighting piano bosses and stuff. It's weird. It's like, what is it about haunted pianos in these 64 games? They just keep carrying on through. Let's get to number 3. Click Clock Wood. This is the last level before you get to Gruntilda, and some people don't like this level. It's big for what it does. Well, let me read about it here. The last major world before you meet Gruntilda is one of the most challenging of all. At its heart is an enormous tree which can be visited during any of the 4 seasons, featuring different puzzles and secrets each time. Help Fat Nabnut the squirrel gather his nuts, tackle the spiky problem of the wasp nest, and meet up with some familiar faces as you prepare for your final confrontation. So this level you get to play all 4 seasons of. So it's a level that you play like in the spring, in the winter, in the summer, and the things that you do in like the winter affect things in the summer, and vice versa. So the level does get some flack because of how many times you have to replay it, and essentially replaying the same level with kind of slight things changed here and there. This level has the bee transformation, so whether or not you like flying in the 64 3D kind of situation, you've got that. It's also got a beaver named Naughty. Shout out to Donkey Kong Country there. So you got the 4 seasons. It's just a cool mechanic just to try it out, whether or not people like it. Again, the seasons affecting other things. You have to help an egg hatch is one of the games. But it can be repetitive. It can be the longest level in the game. But it's the little details for me. Check out number 2 on my Banjo Kazooie level list. Oh, that's Freeze Easy Peak, and if you know what number 1 is if you're a Banjo fan as far as levels. And these two for me are kind of, as far as my 1 and 2, just both great freaking N64 platforming collectathon levels. Freeze Easy Peak, the terrain is every bit as treacherous on Freeze Easy Peak, where a misstep on an icy slope can send you tumbling into a lake so cold it stings. Stay alert though, and you'll only have to deal with missile-hurling snowmen, speeding sledge stunts, and a bizarre fairy light odyssey from box to tree. Still, at least Boggy, the merry old polar bear, is around to keep your spirits up. This level, giant snowman, right in the... It's how you enter these collectathon levels, and you just see all these things in the distance, and just knowing you're going to get to it eventually. Again, if that appeals to the anxiety, OCD part of me, it's like I like to make lists, and I like to do the things, and I like to check the things off the list, and then I'm happy. So this appeals to me, these levels, these games. Freeze Easy Peak's got the big Christmas trees. You got presents everywhere, snowmans and sleds and igloos and walruses. You get the walrus transformation in this level. It's got some racing missions that are okay. You get to learn the beak bomb as well in this level. This is the, 5th, 6th. It's a later level in the game, but it's super fun and I love it, which takes us to number 1. And we're talking Treasure Trove Cove, my favorite level in this game. It just feels like its own game. You get out of Gruntilda's lair, you get out of Mumbo's mountain, and suddenly you're just in this big, huge, open world, water and beaches and platforming. Treasure Trove Cove, a suspiciously lush world of sandy shores and sparkling waves. The cove plays home to such comically larger-than-life characters as Captain Blubber, I love him, the incompetent pirate, and Nipper, the giant hermit crab. The minor inhabitants are less than friendly, as you'll soon realize when a horde of snapping shellfish and angry crabs come scuttling and bouncing down the beach towards you. Shout out to Captain Blubber. He's riding like a wave runner, like Wave Race 64 style at the barbecue at the end of the game. And he's got some cool music too. So shout out to Captain Blubber. Treasure Trove Cove, tropical beaches, pirate ships. You're starting to learn your flying, your spring trap jumps in this level because it gives you all this room to do it. You got to do like a treasure hunt quest. All the NPCs are fun. So it just kind of lets you know what the rest of this game is going to be. Just by a big, sometimes you're trapped in those smaller levels, and then sometimes you get those really cool, big open world type levels. And so from there, that's my ranking of level lists. From there, you head like we talked about in our story. You can head out. You can take out Gruntilda, depending on all your music notes, depending on if you get to open all these doors on your way to your final big battle and all these kind of things on the final Gruntilda fight on your way up through the layer. But again, the quiz show was good. If you get beat the quiz show, watch the credits, and then go actually beat Gruntilda. And now, turn the game off, reset it, and just go do it all again because it's a great game. So let's see what some of you guys had to think in some of our comments here, and then we'll get into some awards.
Aren't you a little old for video games? That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
Let's do all the things that you want to do.
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss. Need the info.
I've lived in mortal terror that this would happen.
Get on with the ceremony.
All right, you guys in the comments, I understand you don't want to type out a lot of stuff, but referring to the Banjo Kazooie as BK just makes me want to eat Burger King. So please just write it up. I'm joking, but I'm going to say BK a lot, and then I'm going to be thinking about Burger King. So Tommy Numpty, he says, I remember that mysterious feeling as a kid discovering Click Clock Wood's picture at the beginning of the game, tucked away. Hearing that faint, far-off music really added to the sense of wonder. So again, with that music, I think Ocarina, it reminds me like Ocarina of Time. You had the, like in the Lost Woods, you had to listen to the music cues in order to like get out as far as fading music in and out. So it reminds me of that. And it is cool the way this game will tease stuff that you don't get to until later. And that's always, call it foreshadowing or something. But I've always loved that, all the way down to Link seeing pieces of hearts up on cliffs that you're just like, someday I will get that. So Max Official here says, I like BK2, even BT. That's Banjo Tooie. They are both excellent collectathon games with amazing worlds, characters, and bosses. The creativity that Rare had put into the Banjo games was incredible. In my opinion, easily some of my favorite games ever. And he throws out a guh right at the end there. A lot of these comments are just guh, which I appreciate. I always try to find, because I tend to just love every game if I'm going to talk about it on this podcast. So I always try to find negative things or bad things that we can kind of argue about or bounce back and forth. But some of these games, it's just love across the board. Dylan Deranged, he wrote in, it is my favorite game of all time too. I love Kazooie, Tooie, and even some parts of N and B. That's nuts and bolts. Ugh. I usually say that Kazooie is as close to a masterpiece a game can get, and I still hold true to that. However, I just finished it again yesterday, and the Grunty-specific questions at Grunty's Furnace Fun can bite me. Having to find Brentilda and talk to her 3 times to get answers to questions that change every save file is ridiculous. I didn't do it this time because it's a waste of time, in my opinion, and just brute force the questions. Much, much easier to do that. That is BK's only flaw, are specifically the Grunty-specific questions. Other than that, masterpiece of a video game. And I agree with that as well. I like all the questions at the end of the game that's showing you screenshots of places or sounds or a lot of the things you do as a game. But yeah, the Grunty specific questions that you would only learn from Brentilda, just weird specific questions of their lives or things like that. You either have to know them, and again, they'll change the order of questions and stuff on different files. And the fact that you were expecting a fight and you're doing a quiz show, I can see where that'll throw people off. But I mean, it doesn't, that people got to keep trying new things. Developers or people, just any creator, try new things constantly. I'm still trying new stuff all the time. I don't know what I'm doing. Just keep trying, because you're never going to know until you try something new and put it out there. Penguin says, BK continues to be in my top 5 games to this day. I love that they had the game show section at the end. So this guy loves it. Right. Next comment. Quizzing you on characters you met and facts you learned. So fun. I think that's why I love this game. It just really leaned into the fun and silliness of its characters and world. As a kid, it was so exciting finding out what Mumbo was going to turn me into and trying to find all the collectibles in every world. They changed the themed music in Grunty's castle as you approach the entrance to a world was polished that the game didn't need, but added so much fun. So just little details. These little details made the game next level. He also says, I love the final boss fight. It made you utilize the skills you learned earlier in the game, and was challenging enough where you really felt like you earned the victory. The music for it was so big and dramatic, perfect for fighting a witch on the roof of a castle during a thunderstorm. Hell yes.
Shut up and take my money.
All right, I agree. It's a cool, it is. It's like we teased you with a weird game show, but now have this epic, almost feels like Zelda type of fight on top of this castle. Eagle Eye here says, Banjo Kazooie, in my opinion, is one of the best polished games of the N64 era. I'll interrupt you real quick. You see that word a lot, polished. It's what some of these games are and that's where developer love kind of shows through. Like, you can push games out all you want, but Nintendo polishes those games. He continues, Nintendo usually releases polished games, perfect soundtrack, aesthetics, gameplay, etc., and not too many third-party developers hit that mark, but Rare is one of the developers that go above and beyond with their quality of work as a whole. Just take Diddy Kong Racing and DK64, for example. BK is one of, if not the best game they've made, and I'm still pissed Xbox bought them because I imagine they would have continued to make hundreds of games for the GameCube Wii switched that we all would have loved. And yes, in some alternate reality, maybe Nintendo bought Rare. Maybe not. Keep Rare on its own. Yeah, Microsoft never buys them. And we've got Banjo 7 coming out next year or something. Or you had, I'm not sure I would have liked a Banjo Wii game, but can you imagine a Banjo GameCube game? Like a Mario, maybe not a Mario Sunshine, maybe some. Mario Sunshine's fine. I wanted a Mario 64 too, and I didn't get it, and I'm still bitter about it. But a cool Banjo GameCube game would be awesome. Cape and Crown here says, such nostalgia. I love this game. It's a footprint in video game history. As a kid, Banjo Kazooie was the game I had the most fun playing, second to Ocarina of Time, and that's saying something. The graphics don't hold up as well as I had hoped, but the gameplay and mysteriously enthralling worlds make for one hell of a good time. Next comment here, and I mean, you've heard me. He's comparing Ocarina of Time is still considered the best reviewed game in the world, I think. It's a hard one to mix between. I mean, I love Ocarina of Time, but is that nostalgia? Are there better Zelda games? But anyway, we'll move on. I like this comment, and you have to understand that his name is Must Climb Ice. And he says, if you know who I am a fan of ice climbers and climbing ice. But this game is just as good as that game. Sure, Ice Climbers is all I care about in life, but this game is my go-to when I want to play Ice Climbers 3D, as there are many ice areas in the game for ice climbing, such as Freeze Easy Park or Click Clock Woods, winter. This game's ice levels are fun and expansive, and all of the other levels also contain ample climbing, which I also love. Overall, it's great. This guy, he loves ice. He loves climbing. I would have thought this was just some weird generic comment someone put out there, but the fact he lists details such as Freeze Easy Park and Click Clock Woods, it's like this is a real person writing this and comparing ice climbers to Banjo Kazooie, and I appreciate that. Brady Hurst here says, Banjo holds up better than any other N64 game, better than Mario 64, GoldenEye, Ocarina of Time, etc. That's not to say it's better than those games, but it does hold up better than those games. That's the last comment I have here, and I'll speak on that just a little bit. Is it the game that's good or how it holds up? And that's the thing. Some of these Nintendo games that were made really great, or Super Nintendo, or even Sega, all these games that it's like this new kid, a kid today kind of test. Like, can you give this game to a kid today and will they play it because it's entertaining? And a game like Mario World is pretty much always going to be like a yes. It's your basic, awesome Mario platformer. A kid can pick it up and play that easy. So looking back at some of these games, he's not saying Banjo is better than Mario 64. In order to say that, you'd have to go back to the 90s when these were and rank the games only based on 90s games, I guess. But I'd go right there, and I agree with this comment is what I'm trying to get at. That Banjo holds up. You can go turn that thing on. The graphics are kind of meh, but like the gameplay's there, the humor, the things that make you want to keep playing, the rewarding feeling of the work you're doing. Whereas Mario 64 is just still kind of basic. I mean, GoldenEye is great, but like looks ugly, and you're playing with your 64 controller. And just like I was saying with Ocarina of Time, it's like, I know it's the best. It's hard to say. It's my favorite Zelda. Well, maybe Link to the Past. It's like on any given day, I'd probably rather play Link to the Past. But is that nostalgia? You don't know, because it's all about those games you played, I swear, when you were like 10 to 12, that you will just hold to your chest and no one can take them from you. And those are my good games, because that's why I like random games like I mentioned, like Tiny Toon Adventure is not a super popular game, but it's like I owned it. So I played it over and over and over, and why isn't everybody else talking about it? And that's just how some of these things were with games you owned at that perfect gaming time that we can never go back to, that I just keep talking about. That's why I have a dumb podcast where I just talk about the times we all wish we could go back to when we weren't adults with dumb adult responsibilities. But moving on, that's all the comments. We're going to talk some dumb fake awards here. The first award is the Leroy Jenkins Award. And that's going to be my funnest or funny thing in the game. And that's hard to pinpoint on this game. The back and forth with Kazooie and Goggles is hilarious. Even now, even then, go back and if you want to see like late 90s humor, then go see what those two were talking about. You know, those kind of things, those jokes, they still hold up. Gruntilda's rhyming skills, she could be like a rapper. Her rhymes are so bad they're funny. But just Gruntilda as a character I like. I enjoy that in the game. The post-credits boss fight, I like that they tease you with that or assume you're not going to watch the credits. Those kind of weird things. That'll make you stay on your toes as a gamer. But my favorite, funniest, dumbest thing in this game is going down the toilet as a pumpkin. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can transform into a pumpkin in the Mad Monster Mansion level. And then to get to a part, you have to transform into a pumpkin and then have the toilet, who talks to you, by the way. He's got a personality too. He makes little like fart noises as he's talking. You got to get flushed down there. And then you're a little tiny pumpkin, but you're like going through like toilet pipes and stuff. And all this stuff leads like right up into Conker's Bad Fur Day. As far as the humor you're going to get out of that game, Rare delivers in that one. That old MA game or whatever, you over 13 game, you want to play that, go check out Conkers. I'm going to do that episode someday. Next award is going to be Mega Man's Good Boy Rush Award, and that's going to be the best thing about our animal companion, even though we are also an animal. But our favorite thing about Kazooie, she's got the humor. She's got that chirping, literally. She's got the charm. We've got the double jump, the floaty princess jump. This game would be weird without that. We've got the trot. It's kind of weird that you flip over and it kind of makes a whole different sprite kind of avatar character for you. And it gets a little hard to control sometimes when you're doing her run. But the egg toss is cool, the way she'll either spit eggs or you turn around, you're farting eggs out on things. And I put a note in general, just the partnership of Banjo and Kazooie and the fact that this is a one-player game, but by having these two characters constantly talking or helping each other out, and even as just a kid playing this, a kid playing like a one-player game like this with all this kind of stuff going on with NPCs, with two main characters, it just maybe helps you not to feel so like lonely in a one-player game. And it's not just you running around and, lonely. And I mean that in the real sense of playing like these games as a kid who was just alone by himself a lot playing games. I look at a lot of these characters, as I look at them as friends from way back in the day. So it was nice to have that. But my favorite thing about Kazooie is her humor. She's funny and I love it. And this game would be so different. You take Kazooie out, whatever, give Banjo all those moves in some way, but then it's just a bear running around, then you're no different than Mario. So it's think of like Mario Odyssey. Now Mario's got Hattie and they're interacting and all those kind of things. That's very Banjo-like. So stop yelling at Banjo for stealing from Mario 64 and yell at Odyssey for stealing from Banjo Kazooie. And then you don't have to yell at any of them because I love them all. We can all just sit around and play games, play them all together. Last award here is going to be the Super Nintendo Chalmers Award, and that's going to be the favorite character name. Banjo, that's a great name for a banjo-playing bear. Kazooie, I love, named after the annoying kazoo. We got his sister Tootie, which just sounds funny. That's a fun name to have. Gruntilda, or Grunty as we call her. Shout out to Dingpot, her cauldron. And Mumbo Jumbo, I like names that rhyme. But the award for my favorite name is going to Gruntilda. Like you hear that name and you just think of like a witch, right? This whole Gruntilda. or whatever the old Wizard of Oz witches were and all that kind of stuff. So she's getting my award there. And now we are going to talk some ranking. 4 categories, as is usual here at TGR. Let's talk gameplay, everything out of 10. Gameplay, 8 out of 10 from me. And I'm only marking that down. You're going to lose some points for that music note mechanic. Because as a kid, it's tough. It's tough even like when I did play it, even however old I was, like 12 or 14. Like playing this as a 6-year-old, I couldn't imagine. So take that music note option, make that like a hard mode maybe. You could see that that's where they went with it by just completely switching it on the Xbox, because they're just like, this is just too much. So gameplay, you're going to catch crap for your 3D platforming and your 64 cameras, but there's no help in those. I mean, other than that, gameplay-wise, you're a great game. So I'll lower than I want. I'll give you an 8. Talking visuals, though, we're going to go 9 out of 10. Especially when you compare it to Mario 64. It's like comparing like Super Mario Land on the Game Boy to Super Mario Land 2. It's like same kind of system, but the difference is between the beginning of a system and farther down the system. The levels feel alive. The NPCs have story. Everything looks amazing. Visuals, you're getting a 9 out of 10. Music and sound, you are also getting a 9 out of 10. I took the time to get every single clip today because I love all the music from this entire game. I mean, it's rare. Come on, they made Donkey Kong Country. They made the best aquatic music ever in the world to this day. I'll die on that hill. Pick if it's a hill you want to die on, you pick a good one. I'm picking that hill. So 9 out of 10 on your music and sound, even with all your weird dialogue, even with all of this stuff. All of that. No, stop it. I said stop it. All that's good with me. I like all that. It's dumb and it's silly. Just listen to it. It's supposed to be silly. Enjoy it. Awesomeness factor, a 9 out of 10. The Mario sequel we all wanted. It's got more story, more details, more charm. If Mario had time. But it's like, how did Mario 64 have time when they invented 3D platforming and what it should be? Mainly by coming up with like a hub world and just kind of see where that's gone in gaming. A lot of stuff is just like Mario 64. So add all those up, doing some math. Does this game rule? This is my drum roll music now. GoldenEye pause music is the best. Yes, this game rules. 9.5 out of 10. You should own this game. This isn't a play once and forget. That's not a set it and forget it. This is a play it all the time game, because it really takes 2 or 3 playthroughs to even appreciate everything. You're going to miss so much. This game has so much to offer. It got a great sequel, Banjo Tooie. It deserves to be a great trilogy. Nuts and bolts doesn't count. So get this game into your regular rotation. I knew it. Miss Cleo even told me this game was going to get a rule score. So she was right. So we're going to wrap it up and get out of here. Even now when I came to record this, I'm like, I'd rather just turn on Banjo and play it and record this dumb podcast. But I want you guys to play it too. So I'm going to keep the podcast going. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to keep talking into the void about video games. So we'll wrap up. We'll get out of here. Thanks again for listening to the show. I really do appreciate anyone putting up with all this. I just want to talk video games and forget about all the other BS going on in the world. Hit me up. Talk about whatever you want to. thatgamerules@gmail.com. I will respond quickly because I'm bored and I don't have any friends. So hit me up. We're going to go on to the next game in this podcast journey. Next week, we're going to talk Mario. We're talking outer space. And we're talking about a brand new princess from a galaxy far, far away. It's Mario meets Armageddon. Don't want to close my eyes. Don't want to fall asleep because I'll miss the next Mario episode of my show. And I don't want to miss a thing. I'm going to get out of here, guys. I hope you keep listening to the show after all my dumb singing. I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks again. I'm out of here.